A new Washington law hopes to make your child's college experience safer.
And that law went into effect in June, and it requires all public and private institutions to provide fentanyl prevention education and resources to students. Our Alexandra Cohen-Yards took a deep dive into how schools in our area are adapting to this new law.
When dropping your kid off for college, you might have a lot on your mind.
Your student isn't living at home anymore, and they're going to come into contact with a lot of different social experiences.
Our nation and state are in the middle of an overdose crisis. Colleges and universities are not immune.
On each of our campuses, fentanyl and drug overdoses continue to be a growing threat to our students and our communities. Many of our schools have lost students to this epidemic, and it is a truly terrible impact on our communities and families.
Colin Bannister is a student at Washington State University and cared enough about this issue to testify at a legislative hearing last spring in support of House Bill 2112.
That bill is now a law. It requires colleges and universities to provide resources and education on opioids and fentanyl awareness. It specifically requires schools to have Narcan and fentanyl testing strips available on campus, provide opioid and fentanyl awareness prevention information, and train dorm staff on how to administer Narcan.
It's the CPR of our time.
Dr. Patricia Marheis coordinates Cougs for Recovery, a support group for students at WSU.
Everybody knows somebody who's been impacted, maybe is overdosed, maybe they've lost a family member.
The group has held educational events for students on how to use Narcan and fentanyl testing strips even before this became state law.
When we have these Narcan trainings, I ask them, why are you here? Why are you here for this training? And often they say they're anxious, they're worried.
With funding from this law, WSU says it will be able to reach more students by providing more fentanyl testing strips and Narcan on campus. Up the road, Eastern Washington University is still adjusting to this new legislation.
I think what this legislation is allowing campuses to do is have the conversation from different angles.
For Eastern, the biggest challenge has been figuring out the logistics of the new legislation. The school has been focused on the educational and training components, such as launching a new website on fentanyl awareness. Private colleges like Gonzaga are also required to follow this law, but they can't tap into the same funding source as state institutions. Gonzaga had to look for alternative ways to get funding.
I spent some time working with the Department of Health to see if we could potentially get enrolled in their Narcan distribution plan.
Dr. Charmaine Adams, Assistant Dean of Student Health, Counseling, and Wellness at Gonzaga, believes this bill acts in the best interest of students.
I think the heart of the bill is there. I think ultimately we just want to keep our students as safe as possible on college campuses. I think that the sentiment that just kind of experimentation with drugs in college comes with a much higher risk.
So where are these available? At Gonzaga, there are 5 spaces on campus that have baskets with fentanyl testing strips, Narcan, and educational material. Students do not have to ask for it. All they have to do is grab it. WSU Director of Medical Services, Dr. Sunday Henry, has been on the forefront of ordering all of the supplies the law requires.
It's a very safe medication. Like if you administer this to a person and they aren't having an overdose, nothing bad's going to happen.
I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but how are you noticing this new initiative impact WSU?
People are interested. People want to get trained. People want to get involved, and the students they want the resources for their fellow students.
It really is an act of relationship, an act of compassion for others around them.
That act of compassion does come at a cost. House Bill 2112 is expected to cost the state $1.5 million over the next 2 years. This is only for public higher education institutions. For Eastern, an estimated $140,000 will be spent. For WSU, that number is just under $380,000. In studio, Alexandra Cohen-Yards, 4 News Now.